Hello, hello, hello. How are you today? We are talking today about what is in health news, right? That is what we've been talking about lately. What's in health news? What is in health news? Well, I have my guest, Sharon D. Brown, again, and we're going to talk about what is out here in health news. And of course, I am Reverend Dr. Brooke Brimm, Minister of Mind, Body, and Spirit. And we are here because we want to talk about what is healthy for people over 50. Like what do we do that's holistic? What should we be doing? Well, let's just talk about the obvious, right? We are about not even 6 months into a new presidential administration because this is April. So we're like 4 months in, approaching 4 months. It's been a lot of topsy-turvy. And that is not just in the America. It's been actually in the world. We've been going through a lot of topsy-turvy, right? A lot of things. People are wanting change. They want equality. They want to be heard. They want their dollars to go towards what they want them to go towards. They are kind of, you know, want change. And an interesting thing is, I'm going to say, it doesn't matter who you voted for. You still voted for some kind of change. Your decision about what that needed to be, who you're blaming, what you think the cause is, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to debate that. But we all wanted some kind of change, right? We all have come to a different conclusion about what the problem is. But I think we all know that there is a problem. So there is a phenomenon that's happening right now called Pluto in Aquarius. And Pluto in Aquarius is a time, and it started November 6th. It happened in 2023 for a brief period, and then started November 6th, and it will continue for, I think, 19 years. 19 years.
Wow.
19 years. Now, it's a time of transformation. It's a time of change. It's a time of growth. It's basically a time of breaking down and building up something new. The last time that Pluto was in Aquarius, this is how rare it is. And let me tell you what happened the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. We had the American Revolution. We also had the French Revolution. So if you are feeling this sense of revolt, wanting change, wanting something different, I would say it's because of Pluto in Aquarius. So what do we do over 50, right, during this time of revolution? Because I do believe it's a time of revolution, and we'll just have to see how that unfolds. And what's our role? What's our purpose? Because, everybody can't get out in the streets, and everybody shouldn't get out in the streets. So what should we be doing? Oh, first of all, let me ask you, Sharon, have you heard of this concept of Pluto in Aquarius?
No, when you said it, I'm like, what? And pretty much when you were talking, it just reminded me of the goodness it is to be around. I like to call it diverse, like-minded people. Because we do want diversity. I mean, we do want like-minded people, but we also want them to be diverse. And so it just reminded me when it comes to, I'm going to say, these type of phenomenal, I have like a basic knowledge of them, and it's not my thing. I do like the information, but we're all naturally drawn to something, but I really do like hearing other people talk about and everything you just said. So no, I was not aware of it. So you're schooling me, and I'm thinking to myself, when this published, I'm going to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, and I'll put in the description just a little link for people to read more about it. And I would have to say my knowledge is also basic about it. I'm not, I read and explore all kinds of different things, and I dibble and dabble in all kinds of different things. But, my what I'm expert in is metaphysics. So I explore all the things that kind of go around that. So that's really more like a astrology thing. But I dibble and dabble in it. So I'm not in it by any means um claiming to be an expert. But I have read enough about it, and I did see that right from the door, I had been waiting on it. My husband is the one who actually showed it to me. I heard people talking about it, and my husband showed it to me, and I started reading about it, and I started reading about it. And so I was thinking, oh, I was hoping anyway. Oh, if Kamala comes in, this transition will be easy. You know what I mean? We'll start transforming. We'll be kumbaya. It'd be great. Yeah. But deep in my heart, I kind of knew that revolution is not evolution. You know what I mean? It's not incremental.
Yeah.
It's like slash and burn and rebuild, you know? And it seems like right away we started hearing people want change, want billionaires to stop what they're doing, want people to just be allowed to be free and live, want more time for themselves, for their family, just so many different things, want us to save the environment. So many different things that people started saying we could do better. We want better. We need better. We deserve better. And it was like right out the gate from November 6th, it just started going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing people in the streets all over the world asking for more change. And part of what forces a revolution, I want you to think back to the Civil War, not the American Revolution. Well, also the American Revolution as well. But for right now, let's just talk about the Civil War and also civil rights, Civil War and civil rights. So basically, for for the Civil War, and I don't know if I talked to you about this, but maybe someone, for 100 years, this subject of ending slavery had been debated for 100 years.
That's a long time.
A long time. And the only reason why I know that is because I homeschooled my kids. I was a homeschool teacher, and we went through like all the presidents and all the things that happened during their terms, and we just kind of went through American history that way, and basically what by each president, what they were faced with, what they did, da 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 da. And for 100 years, this notion of ending slavery was debated in America. Nothing happened. Incremental change. They at some point, I think around 1830, maybe, they said at least you can't bring slaves from Africa anymore. And so then they just were trading slaves inside of America, and some of them were sneaking ships from Africa. Point is, the reason why the Civil War happened was not because of the liberals who had been debating and talking for 100 years about ending slavery. No. It was because the conservatives, the slave owners, suddenly got a bug up their ass. They felt threatened by the cotton gin. They felt threatened, and they decided to go to war. They actually, if they didn't decide to go to war, they probably could have kept slavery going for another 100 years or so. We might have still been in slavery, you and I. You know what I mean? If they didn't get a bug up their ass. But they did. And they decided, we're going to war. They're the ones who were the aggressors.
Mm-hmm.
And that started the Civil War. Okay? And then blah, 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 we're free. And that's so 100 years of talk, 100 years incremental change. debating this, that, courts, Dred Scott, all the little things. You know what I mean? 100 years. And then they became the people who suffered the most were the ones who became the aggressors. They brought it on themselves. Same thing with the civil rights. They were pushing for more and more. People could have just, they started the fight. You're gonna go sit in the back. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do what I say do. They started the fight, and that caused civil rights to be pushed through. They were the aggressors. They were the violent ones, because people could have went, because this Jim Crow started in the 20s. That's a long time.
It is. It is.
And the first pushback, 58, 50, was it 58? I think. Maybe 53. I don't know. I always get 3s and 8s confused. I don't know. 58. Point is, pretty sure it was 58. This is the same thing that's happening now. We could have went on with incremental change. Democrats win a little bit, Republicans win a little bit, back and forth, this little win, that little win. We could have went on like that for 100 years. But we have Donald Trump being the aggressor. We have Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, being an aggressor towards everyday people. Why? 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 And you have conservatives being the aggressors. Now, the thing is, the reason why I feel like is because they're supposed to. They're meant to. On a cosmic level, that is their role in it. Like, in their minds, I believe Donald Trump, in his mind, you hear him say it all the time. I'm the only one who could do it. It's only me. It's only me. I'm the only one. I know what to do. I'm the person. I truly believe in his mind.
He believes that.
That he believes that, and that it's true, and that God put that in there.
Yeah.
That you are the one. Yeah. It is on you. You are going to change the world. You are going to do these things for the world. You are going to change the world. You're a great man. Not in the ways that we think, though, right? Not even in the ways that he might think. He might think it's this egotistical greatness kind of way, but truly, I believe it's in the Darth Vader type of way. When I don't know if you watched the Star Wars
video. It's been some years.
Yeah. Well, I watched all of it. Every aspect of Star Wars. My husband loves it, so I'm right there with him watching him, right? I didn't even know about Star Wars before I married him, but I watch it, all the aspects. So the Darth Vader character, as a young boy, he had a lot of spiritual power, and they say he's the chosen one. He's going to change the world. He's a chosen one. And everybody thought he's the chosen one in that, we're going to do it in this easy way. Nice and easy. As Tina Turner said, do it nice and easy. But no, he turned to the dark side, and so it was nice and rough. You know what I mean? It was, he caused a revolution. And eventually that did change things, and people woke up, and, it did change things. Everything he did change things and make things better. So that's what I believe. Elon Musk, Donald Trump. This is just my belief. Nobody else has to believe it, whatever. But I do believe they have a purpose, and it's to wake all of us up, and it's to change things, and it's to stop us from doing incremental things. I mean, this dude is defying court systems. We have checks and balances. We have 3 branches of government for checks and balances. We have the executive, we have the legislative, we have the judicial. Right? They're supposed to check and balance each other. So if one gets too big and goes out of whack, the other one's supposed to come and, bring you back down to size. And then if these two get too big, then this one's supposed to come and fix it. Right? Basically, all 3 of those branches are very conservative dominated right now. But even the judicial branch, the lower courts, there are courts that are telling him he can't do this and he can't do that. And he is literally defying our Government, the way we have it set up, he's defying the judicial branch. That is the way the government is set up for checks and balances. That's how we're supposed, that's what the democracy is supposed to be. He's literally like, I ain't paying no attention to that. So that is, keep doing that. That is making the people rise up. And on my Instagram, I said to, and I stand by this and I mean this. I said to my audience, and my audience is mostly part of the 92% who voted for Kamala Harris and the 78% who voted for Kamala Harris. Now, if you don't know who that is, okay, my audience is also the people whose parents and grandparents have worn out their shoes, protesting, marching, this, that, fighting, right? And I said on my Instagram, and I mean this, do not go out there. This is not your time to go out there. We have spent many times trying to show America the right way. This is not our time to march. This is our time to raise the vibration. We got to know where our lane is. And you see us line dancing, we've got our boots on the ground. That's what we should be doing. Innately, we understand that we should be raising our vibration. Keep the vibration high and let the people who need to be working work. Because the reason why we are here is because of othering, right? That is the reason why we are here in this situation. Why Donald Trump is where he is, why Elon Musk is where he is because the people were voting for othering. I don't want these people to get anything. I don't want those people to get anything. I don't want these people to be celebrated. I don't want those people to be celebrated. Only me. Me. They're taken away from me. Everybody knows I'm better than everybody else. I'm the highest. I'm the best. So it's okay. I want it to stay that way. I want it to be about me. So those same people who made those decisions need to be the ones out in the streets. They're the ones who need the transformation. Because if that transformation doesn't happen amongst the people who made the choice, then we'll just be back to incremental again. And that's not what's happened cosmically. So I said all of that. And these are my opinions. People don't have to believe it or not, but this is just how I feel about it as a metaphysician.
And
so then, yes.
No, I was just about to say that you bring up, some really good points in that I think that people should take heed to and really think about, you know what I'm saying? Because of the fact there are times, just like you say, in history where, things have happened, incremental parts, and it's almost like, because, like the main thing that I say, like when it comes to like my self-care pillars or my self-care brand is that self-awareness. So really, and I think sometimes people think it's like, oh no, it's like sometimes you really have to take a look of like where you are, where you need to be, what's for you and what's not for you, and then when it comes to a revolution, because when you were talking, it's like, hey, it's just not our time to do this. And it kind of reminded me of the art of war. And part of the art of war is to retreat, is to step back so that you can study the enemy and see how you can gain momentum as well, because momentum isn't always in the front, and if we don't step back so that we can regain, our strength and be able to do what needs to be done, then we'll end up just not being ready in the first, being ready, let's say, for the next round.
Exactly.
When you thought they had paused initially.
Hold on. All right. So yes, my favorite scripture in the Bible is there's a time for everything. It's Ecclesiastes, I think 13:1. Let's see if I don't see my Bible around here, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. There's a time for everything. And That's just like how I like to guide my life. It's there. And what that means for me is we we don't get to judge what the actions are. You know what I mean? We just, because I think all action, is it 3-1 or 13-1? I think it's 13. I think all actions are right actions. It's just about timing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, time for everything. Yeah, Ecclesiastes 13. Nope, it's Ecclesiastes 3, 1
Okay.
through 13. Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 13. A time for everything. So it's a time to be born, time to die, time to plant, time to uproot, time to kill, time to heal, time to tear down, time to build, time to weep, time to laugh, time to mourn, time to dance, time to scatter stones, time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, and on it goes. So there is a time for everything. And so for me, I feel like the Black community, it's our time, as you say, to retreat, to raise the vibration. And that is because,
You okay?
yeah, okay. that is because that is because okay, hold on. Okay. The reason why we need to stay in is because as soon as they see our faces, they want to make it violent,
Mm-hmm.
right? If they see you out here, it's a trigger. Y'all been trying to fight for this and that. We want to act like we're not doing that. So we're going to make you violent. We're going to shut you down. We're going to make it violent. So as soon as we get out there and start protesting with everyone else, believe you me, they're going to bring out the riot gear, the tear gas, the every damn thing. So right now we need to stay in and let everyone else go out there. All the people who voted for what they voted for, or those who didn't do anything, they need to be the ones out there. We did our heavy lifting and we did it at the polls. So now we need to allow them to do what they got to do. So, having said all of that, now we've spent 22 minutes on that or something, but I want to get into what we need to be doing, right? Because, okay, so I established all the things that what I think is happening, if anybody's curious, and what I think we need to be doing. But I think we should also talk about just basically the kind of things we need to be doing to keep our vibration high. If you agree that we need to keep our vibration high, here's number one: eat more plants. Not saying you have to be vegan. I'm vegan, but you don't have to be vegan like me. But
Or me.
eat, or Sharon, you're vegan too. You don't have to be vegan like us. But you do need to eat more plants because the plants just have higher vibration, right, than animals. Um, if for no other reason that it was no suffering involved in the eliminating that life to bring it to you, right? So there was no adrenaline rush in the animal or in the plant when we went to go clip it. Basically, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It has more fiber, nutrients, higher vibration in plants. Not saying you have to cut out meat. I don't give a damn if you do or don't. That's your business. I do know you need to eat a lot more plants. Do not be out here eating all this processed stuff, running. And here's the thing about when we decide um, that we are omnivores. It's a disadvantage in not in the fact that it's the actual meat. It's the availability of bull jive. So if you are like, I'm an omnivore, that means when you get in a time crunch or you're stuck out in the street or something, that means you're going to eat processed KFC, Burger King, you might eat McDonald's, you're going to eat processed Dunkin' Donuts. You're just going to eat a lot of more processed food because you are open to the meats, and meats are just so much more available. And so that kind of food is what's low vibrational. And I don't care. You can tell me all day, oh, but I make good choices. I did. No, when it comes to crunch time,
Mm-hmm.
and we all go through crunch time and sometimes a lot more throughout the day. When it comes down to that crunch of I got to get something and I got to get something fast because you know you eat chicken, because you know you eat beef, because you know you eat, steak and pork, you're going to run to that. And it's detrimental to your health. When you have decided you eat more vegetables or that you only eat vegetables, you're naturally training yourself to just be more selective about what you eat. And that's just the truth. And I'm sorry if that offends you. And you could tell me all day that no, you don't eat there and you don't do this and you don't do that. But even if you go to, for instance, and I'm on my soapbox today, y'all. I'm on my soapbox today. No, I ain't letting Sharon can't get a word in edgewise. I'm on my soapbox.
Hey, it's all good. But
But
one thing I do want to say too about eating more plants too is for people to just notice their vibration or their energy. I want to say feelings, but I think sometimes people get that confused of being satisfied because of the taste buds. It's like, oh, I don't want to eat that because it doesn't taste good. But if you just notice certain foods that you eat really does give you more energy, where other foods you may eat, I put it like this, it may not do anything, or it may just,
it drags you down.
temporarily.
It drags you some. I remember when I ate
Yeah.
meat, I could feel it in my bowels. I could feel my whole body take
Oh,
all day.
don't talk about the bowels.
I mean, I
Oh,
could
Lord.
feel it. I could feel the heaviness of it. And
Yeah.
so I'm not saying you have to cut it all the way out, but definitely eat a lot more plants. You want to keep
Hmm.
yourself high. You want to keep your vibration. You want to be on purpose. Eat more fruits and vegetables. Have a smoothie. Eat more salads. Put more vegetables on your plate. More steamed vegetables. A little less meat. Whatever, because it does matter. And even if you say you don't eat fast food, oh, I don't go to McDonald's and all those places, and that's fine. That's good for you. But let's just say, like I'm in New Jersey, right? So we eat a lot of subs here. That's the thing. Subs. And also pizza, pepperoni pizza, and this kind of pizza. Those meats with nitrites, they are associated with Alzheimer's,
Wow. Hmm.
cancer, um, high blood pressure, everything. And I'm talking bacon. I'm talking lunch meats. I'm talking the smoked meats we put in greens and things like that. Black people have more dementia. And a lot of times you go into these black homes, they be hard pressed to have some beans that doesn't have that nitrite meat in it, and doesn't, and the greens the same. We got to learn to flavor our beans and our greens with plants, to cut down on that, because you don't want to get to the end and you don't have your mind and you can't take care of yourself, and then you're left to the devices of others, right?
Yeah, or
Because of
any other health problems
yeah,
too.
because of what you ate now. So, and the thing is, because we're living longer and because of technology and also because of the environment and things like that, we're going to have, all of us will probably be exposed to some kind of disease just because we're living longer. And just like a shoe that wears out or whatever, you know what I mean? It might be a good shoe. It might be a high quality shoe, which I'm trying to make my shoe a high
Hmm.
quality shoe, right? But it still wears out after a while. So we shouldn't believe that we're going to go with no disease. That's naive. And I learned that this year. It's naive to think that you won't have any disease. But what we do need to do is prepare ourselves to go through it. If we go through it, prepare ourselves to go through it in a way that we come out on top on the other side. And that really is about the exercise, the eating, more plants. Let me see if I can get my exercise, the lifting of the weights. You know what I mean? This, the hydration. These are things we need to be doing to keep our vibration up, to go through illness if it comes to us, and to come out on the other side on top.
Yeah. And I want to say too, I really like how you said that, it's almost like, what do we do to help prepare ourselves to go through, because a lot of times we may be thinking about the other challenges that come on, among in life, but it's also, wow, what if I do get this, whatever type of medical issue that there
Mhm,
is.
mhm,
And like, for those of you who don't know, I also am a insurance professional too. And one of the things we do talk about is, how your health can impact your wealth. And that's pretty much like the angle that I'm going from, because
mhm,
of the fact that we don't plan from it in doing the things that we need to do mentally and physically, but
mhm,
also financially too.
mhm, mhm,
And kind of what we were talking about earlier with all of these other things about the revolution, it's like, what can we do to revolutionize ourselves financially? And
right.
one is to be healthy, but it's also is to uh, do things that can help us really with our money, so that we don't have to depend on the government or state agencies,
Mhm,
when it comes
mhm,
to assisted living in nursing homes, where it's not really assisted living, because a lot of those things don't even pay for that.
mhm.
Um, but
But your
but the
care, like
thing
long-term
is,
care insurance.
yes,
Mhm,
yes, those things, and to really change how we look at it, and which I do understand, because they have been a period of time, especially as Blacks, have been taken advantage of financially, But the thing is, there's information out there. Educate yourself, because no one is coming to save us,
mhm,
and not just on the financial piece, but again, what can we do now to prepare ourselves for any future, so that we can at least have a fighting chance when it comes to dementia, when it comes to, a heart attack or stroke, so
mhm.
that, because the other thing is, people do survive those things,
Right.
and it doesn't mean that you don't have to. And it's about sustaining.
And the
So,
truth is, people survive these things so much at such a greater rate than we did. Like when I was young, let's say when I was
mhm,
20,
mhm,
and I'm 55 now, people would be at 50 having a heart attack, dead.
mhm,
They would be at 50 having cancer, dead. You know what I mean?
mhm,
At 50 having a stroke, dead. And it was nothing. And I was 20 something. I thought, well, they were old. They were 50. You know,
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
oh, well, my mother would be like, oh, so and so died. Oh, well, they were old. They were 50. And this is just how people died in the 80s, right?
Mhm,
And below, 80s and below, 90s maybe. Heart attacks, strokes, cancer. It was nothing. You just died. Now technology has gone so far, and that's also part of Pluto and Aquarius, making the technology go further and further, right? And we'll see more of that in AI and things like that. Technology has gone so far that people don't die in car accidents unless you are not buckled up. If you are not, if you don't have your seatbelt on, you may die in a car accident. But if you have
mhm,
your seatbelt on and you're in a car, a fairly new car, it's air bubbles, air bags all around you, got you all nestled in. Your car will be jacked up. You come out of there, oh, that was something, but you're
mhm,
alive.
mhm,
Whereas in the 70s, people's head would be chopped off. They would be lost. You wouldn't, they was gone. They was dead, messed up. You see a car all crumpled up, the person would be dead.
mhm,
But we have these seat belts and we have all these airbags, and we don't die as much in car accidents unless we just don't take the proper safety, you know? We don't die as much as from cancer because there's so much research happening. And I don't know what Elon Musk, these people trying to shut it down, but there's so much cancer research that's happened that there's so many different treatments. People don't die. Their cancer is becoming like a chronic illness as opposed to an acute illness that takes you out. Strokes. My mother's friend, she has had about 5 strokes.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to go see her a couple weeks ago. And I was like, oh, well, this time she's going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting up there talking, laughing, jokes, everything, the whole shit. I was like, well, dag, the world is something. The world is really changing. You know what I mean? And with all of it, heart attacks. My sister had a heart attack and she recently passed away, but she didn't die for 7-8 years after that. Whereas people will just die away, die. So my point is, we gotta keep ourselves conditioned because we're not dying. The modern technology, the healthcare is out here to keep us alive. And if we want to come out of it still feeling ourselves, because that's the whole purpose of this channel, is so that we have a longer health span, not lifespan. We want to, so if we get saved from a stroke, we want to have a life afterwards. We want to still be able to walk and cook and this and that. And that is because how healthy you are. Something might happen that causes you to have a stroke, but start those healthy habits now so that even if you are 3/4 of the way on your healthy habits and then you have a crisis, you can bump it up and do even more and feel more like yourself, because that's what you want to do. Feel more like yourself. Not saying when you're young, you think, I can keep myself from having these things. I can keep myself from having the illness, from this and that and the next thing. But as you get older, you realize you're exposed to microplastics, the environment, stress, racism, all the different things, bad water, so many things that you have just spent so much more time being exposed to that eventually something may happen. But the best that you can do for yourself is fortify yourself and really get those healthy habits so that if something does happen, you can bounce back and feel.
One thing I want to kind of just add in what you were saying, because you were talking about when you were talking, what came to my mind was that for us as individuals to do the work, again, do the work now so that we can at least have a chance of having a good quality of life if anything was to happen. And then it also reminds me of two things in which they're both pretty much still come from the medical field. But the first thing is, when I was studying for the personal training certification, one section in there had talked about like how to use quote unquote personal training for individuals who had heart attacks and strokes and other medical conditions. And one of the things that they said and they pointed out, which was true, is that at one time, especially like if somebody was diagnosed like with cancer or something, it was said, oh, just let them rest. After someone get in an accident, just let them rest. And then when they're able to move, but what they have found and discovered, the sooner that you can get someone to move to do something, then it will increase their recovery. And then the other thing that was pointed out was that for those individuals who had a active regular exercise regimen, they were the ones who had greater recovery.
Right. I went to a men's health panel, part of my job, right? I went to a men's health panel put on by Cooper Medical Center, which is housed in Camden, New Jersey. And they had a panel of doctors, and on the end, they had a personal trainer, right? And one of the things that they talked about eating a Mediterranean diet, which is lots of fruits and vegetables, oils, olives, nuts, legumes, things like that. But, some meats in there. But one of the things that they talked about that I thought was important was pre-op.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how you have post-op. There's
Mm-hmm.
things they want you to do post-op. Well, they talked about this idea of pre-op, and I had never heard of pre-op before. And I was like, wow. I mean, I've heard of pre-op where you go
Mm-hmm.
and you get your testing. You know what I mean? You go into the, because I got that when I had
Mm-hmm.
my C-section or whatever. You go and you get your testing, you get prepared for, but they're talking about getting your body in order before you undergo whatever you're going through. Getting your body in order. So let's say, for instance, you're about to go through a period of chemotherapy for
Mm-hmm.
however long that takes, right? But before you begin, like you get your diagnosis, okay, this is what's happening with you. You're going to have to go through chemotherapy. Before you start your chemotherapy, maybe you want to do something like juice fast,
Mm-hmm.
cleanse yourself out of all the things, right? Maybe you want to, even if it's 5 or 10 days, you want to start working out, walking and doing weights and get yourself as strong as possible because chemotherapy is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's very taxing on the body. So you want to get yourself as strong as possible. And then, but here's the thing. So, and this is again, I learned this year about chemotherapy. Somebody I know had a struggle, and I've been with them going through that. So that's what we did. We did the juice fasting and the gym beforehand. And then what we did was because when you go through chemotherapy, you can't have like salads and raw things. You have to be very careful because you have no immune system. And sometimes when you're eating raw, that's why I always tell people when you're doing a raw juice fast or something, go with organic. Because sometimes when you're eating raw, there's pesticides and all kinds of things on things that you're not paying attention to. And you can just kind of rinse it off and you go eat. But your body, a normal body that's not immunocompromised, can just go in there and fight shit off. What's this? Get it out of here. A normal,
Mm-hmm.
you can just wipe. But if you're going through chemotherapy, your body doesn't have that. So you can't eat salads. And so that's something that we learn because, raw and juice fasting is something that I love to turn to for health. So we learn, okay, so you can't eat salads. So instead, what I did with them was put in all kinds of nutrient dense things into everything they ate. So when I made the food, anything that I made was like adding in all kinds of different fruits and vegetables that you might not normally get in. So like in spaghetti, I might just add some turnips in there, blend that down into the sauce. You're not going to notice the turnips are there, but now you have gotten all these extra nutrients and they're cooked, right? We can't go raw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't eat the salads, but you can get your nutrients by putting nutrient dense things inside of soups, inside of sauces, inside of, things where you tucked it away that you wouldn't normally find it. So I would just recommend for anybody who, even if you're eating meat, it doesn't matter. If you're going through something like you're about to go undergo heart surgery, you're about to go undergo chemotherapy, you're about to go for this or that, whatever, even just fortify yourself with all kinds of fruits and vegetables that you can tuck away in places that you wouldn't normally, and you won't really taste them. You can chop bok choy. I made a lasagna on social media where I would normally put spinach, but I chopped bok choy, which is a very high cruciferous, very good for you vegetable, chopped it and put that inside of my lasagna. You'll never notice. It went inside of where the lasagna meat was. It's nothing that you would notice, but it's in there. So prepping yourself in those ways, working out, adding in and enduring as well. Do what you can. Because like, for instance, with the chemotherapy, you're too weak to do anything. So you can't really do that much working out. But if you have the vegetables, then it's better. But anyway, I don't got off on something.
Oh, no, no, no. Because all of these things, again, is really about people being able to be healthy. you know? And so people need to hear all of these things because it is about the prep work, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because even when it comes to, you know, Self Care You Academy, and my main thing about self care, it's not just the, you know, to the prevention. It's almost like the prevention before the prevention. It's like, what are you doing to
Right.
preset the
Right.
prevention?
Right. Because
And we
you're.
need to really start being in that mindset
Mm-hmm.
because one of the reasons that I'm all about this self care is, you know, one, certain things that I observe in my family. And then even
Mm-hmm.
when I really looked at myself, because again, it's about self awareness like, oh, well, I'm not so good in this area. I need to step this up. And then
Mm-hmm.
also what I've seen. And so the thing is, we need to do the work. And is it easy? No, it's not always easy. But for us to have a quality of life, and even though our family and I say close friends can be there, but we want them to be able to look after us and not have to take care of us. I mean, you know, if
Right.
it comes to that, but what are we proactively, preactively
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
doing to prevent all of that?
Right. It's
And
so true.
and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, to be honest, the average person isn't.
Right. And that's why we're here and that's why we're talking right now,
Mm-hmm,
because it's so important to fortify yourself. Because I really do think the older that we get, the more these things will come. I don't care if you are vegan, not vegan, fortifying yourself. It still could come.
mm-hmm,
It still could come. And so, how are you going to get yourself to feeling like you?
mm-hmm,
That's what we always want to get back to, that baseline of I feel like myself.
mm-hmm,
And that is so that's it. And also moving, walking, taking in beauty, right? Being positive, connecting with God. These are all things. It's not just physical with eating and working out, but you also need to connect with your higher spirit, right? Your higher God. You have to, your higher power. You have to. This is what's going to keep your vibration high. This is what's going to faith is actually a very, very strong medicine. Faith is a strong medicine. And I'm going to tell you, just on the plain and simple, when you just think about your feelings, if you have a problem and you think about your problem and it's got you down and depressed and sad, and then you have that same problem and you decide, I'm just going to trust God. I'm just going to believe that I'm going to believe that this is the best for me. I believe something good is going to happen. Which one feels better?
mm-hmm.
Which one feels better? Does it feel better to just, or does it feel better to say, I'm going to believe?
Mm-hmm.
If you know it feels better to just say, I'm going to believe, don't worry about if you look like a fool. Don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Believe. Have that faith and have that power, because that feels much better. And what feels better does raise your vibration. Sharon gave me a Reiki healing. It was whenever we did our last talk. Like after that, she did a virtual Reiki. And I really needed it because, as you know, my sister just passed away. It's
Mm-hmm.
been 2 months, and I've had some other very serious things that I've been dealing with over the last year. So I really just needed to know what my next steps were, how to get there, and I needed some help. So Sharon gave me a virtual Reiki, and it has really, really helped me. So I'm thankful for that. So if you guys are needing that, if that's something that you're interested in, I definitely want you to reach out to Sharon. I'm going to put her, of course, her info in the description. If you want a virtual Reiki, you set your intentions on what you want to achieve for the session. And sometimes it feels like, is she still there? Because it is
Yeah.
virtual. This is virtual, but she was still there, and it was good for me. So, and I feel so much better. And the last time that I had a Reiki healing was before I started Vegan Soul Foodie.
Oh, okay.
I was in the valley of decision. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was doing something that I didn't feel like it was all that I could do. So I was I was with you. I was with the Black
Oh, okay.
Yoga Teachers. Yeah, that's what I was. I was at the Black Yoga Teacher Conference. That was in August. And in November, I started Vegan Soul Foodie, and it just, blew up. And it just became a big, giant brand and more in line with what I wanted to do. But that Reiki really helped me. So then this time, Sharon gave me a Reiki about, I guess it was two weeks ago, and I feel
Yeah.
so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So just saying that if you want a virtual Reiki, it doesn't have to be in person. You can do it virtual, and I'm definitely feeling the effects of it. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Welcome. And there is her information on the screen if you want to reach her. That's on Instagram and on YouTube and Facebook. There you go. Sharon D. Brown, Selfcarepreneur. She also does insurance. You want to get your financial health in order, definitely reach out to her. And I'm so thankful to have you again. And I'm going to sign off now and hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Okay. Bye-bye.